We're back.
We're back.
So, would you guys like to begin? Let me introduce everyone. Hello, everyone, again. Welcome back. I'm Janelle Belgrave. I'm an astrologer, acupuncturist, and clairvoyant intuitive. Yep.
And here with me. What's the
wait, what else do I do? Mercury, Neptune. And I'm joined here by Miss Kelli Glazebrook and also Miss Mo Olufemi.
There she is.
We're back to discuss the Royals, William and Kate, their sixth house year ahead, some progressions, some wedding charts maybe, and here we go. And we're going to kick it off by talking about some eclipses and what they mean to us in astrology. And we'll probably show you a couple of charts, some examples of eclipses in the royal family and what they kind of look like. And then we'll head into some William and Kate stuff. Yeah?
Yeah.
Right.
We thought we'd just do a little bit of a breakdown about eclipses before we get started, because eclipses are so dramatic in the royal family, but also specifically in William and Kate's charts, they are both eclipse babies. And so just a little bit of a breakdown about why, when astrologers look at eclipses, why we say the things that we say, because they can be very dramatic. So first of all, what is an eclipse? And look at eclipse art. Oh my gosh. Let me move it so you can see. So an eclipse is pretty simple. It just occurs when one heavenly body moves into the shadow of another heavenly body. And on Earth, we have a lot of eclipses because our moon is so big and so close to the Earth that it is able to interact between the Earth and the sun and block out the sun or be blocked by the sun. And so it causes these shadows that fall either on the moon itself or can block out the sun. And so there are times when the Earth is between the sun and the moon, and then there are times when the moon is between the Earth and the sun. And whenever those happen, that is an eclipse. And there are a couple different kinds. There's a lunar eclipse. So that's when the Earth is between the moon and the sun. And so the Earth will block the sun's rays from reaching the moon. So it creates a shadow that obscures the moon. Lunar eclipses are quite frequent. They can be seen from any part of the Earth where it is nighttime. So obviously during the day, you would not be seeing a lunar eclipse.
Yes.
And you can have a total or a partial eclipse. In the total, you will see the entire moon, but it will be red, and that has to do with the light that's being blocked. Our eyes perceive it as red. Or you can have a partial eclipse, and the moon will be seen as though somebody took a bite out of a cookie and then left it in the sky.
It's worse.
And then there are solar eclipses. These are the ones you generally see in the news a lot, right? I don't think the news reports lunar eclipses that frequently, unless it's going to be pretty cool looking or whatever. But if there's a big solar eclipse, like a total solar eclipse, people will book trips to go see it, which is wild to me. They'll charter planes to be there. And it on the news and stuff like that, because obviously that's way more dramatic, if the sun's going to be blocked from the sky. So for a solar eclipse to occur, there has to be a new moon, and then the moon has to be positioned, that new moon has to be positioned between the Earth and the sun. And so the moon hides all or part of the sun's light from us seeing it. And there can be 3 types of solar eclipses. There's a total one. This is the one that, you see in movies a lot, right? It's very dramatic. You can watch it as the moon hides all the light from the sun. The face of the sun disappears completely behind the moon. And in the middle of the day, it's like nighttime. The sky darkens, you can see stars, and it's very dramatic. And we had one of those,
2017,
I think it was.
We have another one coming
next year when it crisscrosses the US. Pray for us, people.
Yeah. And this will be the one where you can see, they tell you not to look at it, right? Because it's still kind of really bad for your eyes. And some people will still look at the sky and try to see it. You can wear special glasses too.
Yes.
Those are cool. but you probably won't find most astrologers going and looking at it.
No, generally the ancients are like, go inside and stay quiet. Avoid this.
There's like partial solar eclipse. So the moon comes between the sun and the earth, but it doesn't completely block it out. So you'll see part of the sun. The day is darkened a little bit. And again, the sun looks like a cookie with a bite taken out of it again. It's a hungry dragon coming and eating the cookies.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then annular solar eclipses are when the moon hides only the central area of the sun, and it's like a black circle surrounded by an illuminated shiny ring. And those probably won't be commented as much upon in like the regular media. But in astrology, eclipses, you can see them on a chart when the lunar nodes interact with the moon. So when there's a full or a new moon and it takes place near the nodes, it will result in a solar or a lunar eclipse.
What's the orb? Is it 15 degrees?
Oh, it depends.
It
So
depends. Yeah.
I think for solar eclipses, 15 degrees. For lunar, I think it's 12.
12 or something, 10, 12, something like that. The lunar nodes are a point in the chart that are not a planet, they're not an asteroid, but it's a mathematical point, and it's where the path of the moon intersects with the path of the ecliptic in the sky. And so it's like, it's not a real thing that sits there, it's a math point that helps you kind of track where the moon is going and then when there are going to be eclipses. And then I have this chart here just to show you what it looks like.
The chart of Charles and Diana,
Oh
their
wow,
wedding
they
day.
got married like right before an eclipse. Who
Yeah,
knew?
like what's the day before?
Yeah, the day before an eclipse.
Oh, go back 1 second, Cal.
Oh, what'd I do?
You went forward. So excellent. Go ahead.
There it is.
Mhm.
Yeah. So they got married the day before an eclipse. And as you can see here, right next to the sun, there's a little hooky guy. I don't know. You guys explain it. What do you guys say?
Horseshoe.
A horseshoe.
Yeah.
And that's the north lunar node. And then if you follow that all the way back, you can see the reverse of it. So an upside down like horseshoe in Aquarius. And those are the nodes.
That guy right there.
And they're always opposite each other. So you never have to go around, you know, where's the south node? Where's the north node? If you find one, just go.
You know where the other one is.
The other,
Right
it's on the
across the way.
opposite.
And they travel together and they travel backwards through the
Backwards
zodiac.
through the zodiac.
So this node was going into Cancer soon after, and the south node would be going into Capricorn. Okay.
Mhm.
So yeah, you just have to
Yes.
keep that in mind when you're looking at a chart, because, you know, when you're first reading charts, you're kind of going by zodiacal order. So you would think, oh, the nodes are going to go into Virgo next, but no, they go backwards all the time. So they're going to Cancer next. And they're the only ones that, well, I shouldn't say that because planets go retrograde, but
Yes.
in general, they're the only ones that almost always are going backwards.
I also add that we did look at this wedding chart in depth, last year? So I will put a little link here in the video to remind you guys to go check out that video, because I believe we spoke about this chart and why we were like, oh, who picked this chart?
But yeah, just wanted to show like what it looks like on the chart so that you can see when you're looking at a chart, if you're like, oh, the moon is coming, you know, to the sun, which means it's going to be a new moon soon, and the nodes are there, then you can go to yourself and think, oh, eclipse.
Yeah. So that's applying. I guess the following day would have been the complete eclipse, the total eclipse.
Yeah, the
Looks
following
like
day.
it.
Solar eclipse. Yeah. So
Astro-
not ideal.
yeah, astrologers will kind of take kind of the day of, the day before, the day after as kind of being impacted by the eclipse, depending on timing and stuff like that.
Oh, this chart was so interesting. My goodness. Go ahead.
A lot. So they got married the day before an eclipse, and then this is the day that Diana and Charles announced their separation, which is interesting because, as you can see again, the sun is near the north node, and then the moon is by the south node. It's a lunar eclipse this time. The other one was a solar eclipse. And so it just kind of goes to show that the royal family especially loves doing things around eclipses.
Yeah.
So many
They
things
sure do.
happen around eclipses for them. A lot of birthdays around eclipses or on eclipses. And it's just something to kind of keep in mind when you're thinking and talking about the British royal family, because so many things, like big watershed moments, will happen around eclipses for them. And it's pretty wild to
Any
watch.
theories as to why that would be? It's because drama of the eclipses or the karma of eclipses?
So I know that Bernadette Brady said this on an episode of the Astrology podcast when she was talking about eclipses. People who were born really close to eclipses, especially, their lives kind of take on a quality where it's almost like they're not real people, but they're just acting out like some kind of role. I think that
Mhm.
the British royal family kind of, they're like meat puppets acting out cosmic
Meat
drama
puppets.
at this point. So
I
yeah.
think Anne Ortley said something about when people are born in eclipses, they can be like suddenly taken away as well. So similar to what you're saying, though, like, you know, they're here to act out, but not necessarily be fully embodied in a life the way like you and I are. But it's
Yep.
just like they're almost like not figurines, but gosh,
But
I don't know,
yeah, figurines.
avatars
Yeah.
or, you know, representing an energy versus like their life is their own. It's like we're representing something on the stage of life.
Yeah,
Yes.
I was going to say eclipses are much more impactful, I think, for mundane or like large groups of people, the world stage,
Mhm.
blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And the royal family are figureheads of a country, of a culture, you know. And so I think they're just closely connected to like world events, political things, cultural shifts, all those kinds of things. And so it's manifested, you know, by them continually doing things around eclipse.
Mhm.
Interesting. I mean, if you're watching, maybe send us a couple of charts if someone in your family or yourself or people like that that you know, or even public figures that you want us to look at really briefly, just to see if they're playing out that kind of avatar role.
Yes.
You know, because I can think of at least once someone I knew who passed, who was definitely in their passing, their life kind of became like an avatar for other people in a way.
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah.
All right.
So that's just so that you can look at a chart, and then, you know, if you see these sorts of, you know, the lunar nodes and like either a full or a new moon happening, then you can be like, oh, okay, I know what's going on. and just so you know, a full moon is when the moon and the sun are opposite or approaching opposite of each other. So this would be
Mhm.
in this.
Everybody saw it, girl.
Surprise.
Surprise.
So yeah, the meaning of eclipses in astrology. So eclipses were largely seen as unfortunate events in ancient astrology. You just have to think of the symbolism of it. The sun and the moon were important. And I mean, they're still important to us today. Light and life-giving bodies, and for them to be blocked out from the sky usually meant misfortune, or at the very least, unpredictable events. In later times, we tend not to view them as necessarily catastrophic, since we have 4 eclipses every year. Obviously, each one can't be a harbinger of doom, or else we'd all be facing the apocalypse 4 times a year.
Mhm.
But they definitely can be moments where things change. And like, I think maybe that's something to keep in mind, is like, it's not necessarily the end of the world, but it does mean something is about to change. I don't know if y'all have anything else. I don't know how you view it, but of course, when you say ancient astrologers versus now, you know, you're going to have 97 different kinds of astrologers today with different points of view.
I usually think of the eclipse as like someone is turning on the faucet all the way. And so it's
Yeah.
like a huge amount of energy flushing into the world, and it kind of speeds up events and makes them
Yeah.
dramatic to get our attention.
Or kind of the inverse of what you just said, like suddenly turning off the tap.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it also kind of can, I guess, speed up karma or make karma kind of come to a head. Like the culmination of events can be really like, I guess, come to a head in this period of time to an extent, or even when the nodes are triggered by squares or planets. So like right now in the sky, we're getting close to that transition to Aries and Libra, and Pluto being back into the last degree of Capricorn, there's some really serious world events happening that are very death related, transformative, like very jarring, but it's kind of like a whipping up the karma to get things rolling and to get people's attention in a way, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's just like, whoa, stop.
And I think you have to keep in mind too, generally solar eclipses are seen as way more dramatic than lunar eclipses because the moon, usually doesn't have as long of an impact on things as the sun does. So you can keep that in mind too.
Yeah, I mean,
Turning red makes me freak out, but go ahead.
I mean, I will say that, like, I know that I feel like that's a very Western astrology point of view. Like the idea that the sun being
The most
turned
important.
off for a bit is like, I would say like there is a difference in terms of like the length of duration, because I know that a lot of times people say things like, oh, how long are the effects of an eclipse meant to be felt? So there's actually per the Perso-Arabic traditions, there's a way of calculating how long eclipses will be in effect. So the duration for lunar eclipses is more in terms of months, whereas solar eclipse can have lingering effects closer to years. And so some people say 6 months, some people just say focus on eclipse season and the 2 weeks, but I'd say there's value in each of those approaches.
Yeah. And like if the eclipse is in a fixed sign versus a cardinal sign, things like that. So, and of course the condition of the planet that's ruling the eclipse, all that kind of good stuff. So, which is all things you're supposed to look at.
Yes.
I'm thankful Venus will be forward by the time we get to the Libra eclipses coming up this fall. But
yeah, we did talk about that.
But yeah, so eclipses are considered more important in mundane astrology, astrology of world events. So they are interpreted more as points of reversal or sudden change, especially socially or politically. And then I just put my little thought about the lives of monarchs are thought to be more closely tied to events such as eclipses, as they are figureheads of the state, and so they would be important to the future of a country or people. So eclipses for them may be more meaningful and impactful than for a regular citizen, which is also just my little disclaimer that if you have an eclipse in your chart where you're looking at your chart and you're looking at a transiting eclipse, not all of us run a country or are figureheads for a country, so it will manifest for us differently than like a celebrity or someone who's in government. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So don't freak out if we say something about William and Kate and you think, oh, that's going to happen to me. It's like, probably not.
Probably not.
You're not
maybe something in your
karma.
own life. Yeah. But in your own life, you might want to check, okay, in what ways have I been somewhat of a figurehead in my community, amongst my family members? Maybe I represent something in that way.
Yes.
And not all this has to be negative. It's just, you chose this chart for a reason.
Don't remind me.
I want a refund.
Refund. Take it back.
I'd like speak to the manager. But definitely, like, I think a lot of times we just see change as being bad. So we will like give interpretations of eclipses that can feel like, oh, I don't want this to happen. But it's like, if you never change, what's the point?
Right. We'll get into it at the time, but our whole world is based upon change, right? And yet as humans, we have such huge resistance to it. And most times it tends to be pretty good for us. Like it helps us to grow and evolve. So, I think eclipses also help to challenge us in certain ways. Like, why are you so convinced that you have to stay the same?
Yeah.
Maybe there's something better for you.
I'm saying that as a Taurus, so you gotta take it as a good advice.
I hate change. I'm like, roll with the punches.
We hate change. So I just wanted to show a little bit of like historical eclipses that have been in the British royal family. This is from 1133, so that's way back there. This is the third or fourth son of William the Conqueror, Henry I, when he made his catastrophic decision to leave England and sail for Normandy. And he was going to do some war, another war or whatever. And there was a giant solar eclipse. And as you can see, Janelle's pointing out for me, it was in Leo. And he never returned. He died in Normandy. And everyone in England saw this eclipse. It was happening. It was a total solar eclipse. And everyone was like, don't get on the boat, don't go. It's a bad omen for the king. And he was like, whatever. And he did it anyway, and he never came home.
I mean, Pluto's squaring the
That
lakes.
Pluto square.
And Lord.
But
And it's a south node eclipse too.
a total solar eclipse in Leo, talking about the king.
Gosh, I mean, Pluto and Sag, not Pluto, Saturn and Sag too. So, you know, troubles with travel. Oh gosh, listen to people, listen to your astrologers.
And I was reading in a mundane astrology book about eclipses and fiery signs, and talking about exile, imprisonment, or murder of some king or notable person or a great ruler. So
listen to the astrologers. I'm wondering, I'll have to think about it, but is his death? Do you guys know the book Pillars of the Earth?
Yeah.
No, I don't know it.
Can follow it or whatever.
Yeah, it's fun. If you like historical fiction, you'll definitely like that. But I'm wondering, was his death the foundation of that? I can't remember.
Girl, it's been so long since I read
It's
that.
been so long. Anyway, I'll have to go research, but great book if you're interested in that. And there's a TV show, miniseries.
But this just goes to show, you know, the British royal family and their long history of
but Kelly, that resource, like, that's a great resource. Which book was it again, where you like learned about the elements?
This book, Mundane Astrology, by Green, Raphael, and Carter. And it has like what happens in all the different signs, like eclipses and stuff. So
I will leave a link to this book
signs
in the comment section. So if you guys are interested in getting the book, you can definitely pick it up.
I'm so interested.
Unfortunately, it was written, or at least compiled, I think in the 1930s, I believe.
Yeah,
it's a little bit old. So in terms of trying to match it to our politics and things like that, you're gonna have to use your imagination or do some additional research. But overall, it's pretty accurate, I'd say.
Listen,
I think
if we can do the mental gymnastics for ancient astrology, we can make 1930s work. Okay, we can do it.
It's like, so he talks about Parliament. I'm like, ooh, Parliament. Congress.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah, so things like that. Just have to update a little bit. That's all.
And then I think I had one more. Oh yeah. So this is like during the War of the Roses. So this is 1485. This is when Richard III was King of England, and his wife died on this day, and it was considered a horrible omen for the Yorkist side, which was what Richard III was. And people were talking about how bad it was for the Yorks, and they would, you know, never recover from this. And it gave Henry Tudor, who was sitting outside waiting for his chance to come storm London and stuff. And he was like, this is a great omen for me. And he headed right in and he killed Richard III after this. So,
okay, like, I know we're here to talk about William and Kate, but it's just ironic to me that we are about to enter that eclipse cycle with the Aries Libra, specifically with the North Node in Aries.
Again,
South Node in Libra again. We've got Cardinal Pluto again. And we're also like coming fresh out of a new Saturn Jupiter era. Like,
Saturn's also in the Jupiter rule sign again.
And notice again, this is a fiery sign.
Fascinating. Once again, Pluto is making himself known. Death. And also death to the ruler of the chart, which is Mercury. Mercury's in Gemini. Sorry, Gemini rising, Mercury in Aries.
Okay, there's a lot with this particular. Okay, you see that because for that big eclipse coming April 8th, Mercury's also retrograde actually, which is fascinating. Fascinating.
Ooh, times are changing. What shall transpire? We do not know yet.
We don't know.
So hopefully,
History.
I just pulled, a couple of charts that had something to do with the eclipses in the British royal family. There are tons more. And they almost seem to be accelerating now because you have like William and Kate and who else? Charles?
Charles.
Charles, technically, yeah.
Yeah.
South Node on the sun, yes.
Yeah. So like that's 3 like senior members of the royal family with eclipses in their charts.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we can't really count Megan per se, but she's a Leo sun with the North Node in Leo too.
Mm-hmm.
Her
So,
moon is in
like,
Libra, so
it's interesting because it almost seems to be escalating. And then like,
Yeah.
Charles and Camilla, didn't they get married around an eclipse as well?
They did get married on an eclipse in Aries.
So, and he got
Mhm.
divorced or separated from Diana, during an eclipse and married to Diana during eclipse. He did all of his relationships like during
I
eclipse.
think Diana passed during an eclipse too, actually.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oof.
So I mean, we could probably pull up her chart at some point in time, but I'm pretty sure she died right around
That's
the eclipse.
kind of amazing when you think about it.
Mm.
So,
Ugh. Ta-da!
here are the resources that I kind of pulled from. I showed you, the Mundane Astrology book. And then the other 2 are just my go-to because I think those are great for just when you need a reference.
Sure.
Yes.
Excellent. So now we pull up the charts, and if you want to find us, there is our information. Berkeley, please spare me. And let's look at William and Kate, their
Yes.
charts, and let's chit chat about their now collective 6th house year as a couple.
The
So I guess-
Waleses, aka
Yes.
Cambridges.
And please excuse the music if you can hear it, but it is Pride weekend. I live in Queens, New York, and people are definitely playing reggae and salsa and merengue, and it's a party.
As they should. As they
That-
should.
Right. So first up is Prince William, the now Prince of Wales. He just had a birthday on June 21st of this year. He is now 41 years old, 41 being a 6th house year. So we will be looking at his 6th house. Here we go. His 6th house cusp has Taurus there. So Venus is the lady of the year or the lord of the year for William. So whatever Venus gets up to, William especially will be feeling this year.
Yes.
Okay. So what is the condition of William's Venus?
That's a great Venus, not gonna lie. I mean, yeah, she's cadent, but that's a good Venus. So
I mean, if you have to have a cadent Venus, I'd take Venus and Taurus.
I would, exactly. It's a great Venus.
So when when you guys say that she's cadent and you don't enjoy cadent houses, explain to the audience why that is.
So cadent houses, it's not that they're bad. I mean, again, Western astrology is obsessed with angularity, right?
We love
I mean,
angles,
technically,
the numbers,
and if you want to be technical, Venus is dynamically succeedent leaning angular, but by sign she's cadent. And so cadent houses are said to be like falling away from the angles, so they're declining, falling away, they're not as active. But I actually find that a good way to think about the cadent houses, so houses 3, 6, and 12, they're houses of movement, transition, and problem solving, right? Things that people don't like to do.
Fair.
But things we have to do, right?
I don't want
to.
So this is possibly a problem-solving Venus, potentially.
It's a great Venus for a lot of, just thinking about the fact that Venus is sharing a sign with the IC, and the degree of the IC is importing those like 4th house significations of family, but also property, land, real estate. So you'll see William doing a lot of projects this year around real estate and land. I mean, the things that he's working on the most are obviously Earthshot, conservation, and he's also doing stuff with homelessness now. So, I mean, it's tracking. It's really tracking. With perfections, though, we have to remember that Venus also rules another house. So
Yes.
Venus also rules the 11th. So
Yes.
Libra and everything going on with the 11th, also things that will come up as a result. So
Where those
I
eclipses are.
yes, where those eclipses are.
Where those eclipses are happening, where the South Node is going to be. So there's going to be a cleaning out
Yeah.
of that 11th house to an extent energetically, and a filling up of the 5th house where the North Node will be technically.
Yes. I
There's a
mean,
balancing.
it's funny when you think about that, the clearing out of a lot of the relationships with not just like media, obviously media is very 11th house, but also just like networks of people. I do think that William is going to be going through like a purging or shuffling of, you know, who he wants to be networking with. I mean, we're kind of already seeing that because now he's buddy with some of the people in the Labor Party as opposed to the Tories he usually has been buddy with. So that's
Smelling
interesting.
blood in the water, eh, William?
And I like throwing in the decans. So there are those 10-degree divisions of every sign of the zodiac, of which there are 3 in every sign. Venus is in the last 10 degrees of Taurus. A lot of the narratives there are around, I don't know, cashing out on your insurance policy, preparing for the rainy day. So it does feel like this is a great year for leveraging partnerships or collaborations so that he can push some projects along. So that does feel constructive.
So using his social network, the people that he
Mhm,
knows, some friends,
mhm.
whoever, to help him potentially get some work done. 6th house work, your 9 to 5, health related stuff, yada yada yada. So he's kind of cashing in his chips and saying, do me a favor, right? In exchange for whatever.
Cashing it
Or
on
you
my
owe me a favor.
IOUs.
Yeah. You owe me, so you have to.
You
Or
owe
maybe I know
me.
some things about you that I can leverage, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Interesting that you say that because you can also do perfections from the sect light. So because I mean William's luminaries are in the same place, so it doesn't matter. So you count 6 signs away.
1,
And
2,
where is it?
6.
Sag.
Mhm.
So this is a very benefic year for William, I will say. I don't think he's going to have the same glamour tour that Camilla's having, but I do think that this is going to be the year of William really doubling down on his agenda and pushing it, because look at what Jupiter is doing.
I mean, Jupiter is in Scorpio behind the scenes, right? It is right now in the sky. The South Node is on this Jupiter as well, right? And interestingly enough, remember Jupiter rules over 2 houses. So the 1st house and also the 4th house of
4th
Pisces,
house.
right? So there's a lot going on here. So he might be calling in some favors behind the scenes, secretly, some family favors, friend social network favors, all of it to help him get this 6th house year underway.
Yeah, I mean, look at also the fact that even though Jupiter again is in a cadent house by whole sign, dynamically, because the degree of the midheaven is in the 12th, it's angular. So a lot of the 10th house stuff is being imported into the 12th. So I mean, giving him the benefit of the doubt, 12th house can be associated with charity, right? He's trying to prop up as many new charities as he can, right? Jupiter and the midheaven are in that very hungry part of Scorpio that wants to win at all costs, very ambitious this year. And I think it also again speaks to the homeless stuff he's working on, because think of the ruler of the 4th and the 12th, people who are displaced from their homes. Again, I think that's quite literal for some of the transits he's experiencing and the things that are being activated in his chart.
Interesting, especially when Scorpio has some of that connotation around rejection, being out in the cold in some ways. So very interesting. Okay. So Venus in this chart. Anything to add, Kelly? Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it definitely looks like a reshuffling. I was just like looking at it of like priorities and like trying to get people to buy in on the new direction. Does that?
Yeah, I can see that.
Oh, I'm trading in some different networks, I'm trading in different friends, I'm trying different tactics, and I'm trying to move my agenda forward in like a very meaningful way with like, backdoor stuff, it feels like, right?
Mhm.
Behind the scenes type moving and shaking.
Didn't he say something to that effect before?
Did he?
When not everything needs to be public. I was just like,
Yeah.
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 That's
Yeah.
fascinating to me because, Jupiter also rules by whole sign parental figures, right?
Mhm.
And, you've got that planet that rules parental figures, but also himself in the 12th house of hidden enemies and self-undoing. I mean, I do feel like there's a bit of it's in a very competitive part of Scorpio. So I do wonder if there's also going to be sort of this maybe competition within family and specifically with parental figure
Yeah.
in terms of defining
Charles.
his, what his personal legacy is going to be. So like the nice thing about having the floating midheaven is that for people who have this, the 10th house becomes the external observation of what you do. So you see he's got Virgo 10th ruled by a domiciled Mercury and Gemini. I mean, it's giving privilege, public facing, right? Where William actually wants to be is where that midheaven is, calling the shots behind the scenes. And because Mars rules that midheaven from the 11th, building these big brand partnerships maybe to, and that's a very diplomatic strategic Mars, so it's like war by diplomacy, right? Get your henchmen to do it for you so you're not doing the dirty. I think that William has, it's like, okay, there's William's expected duties now that he's next in line versus what William actually wants to do
Yeah.
as next in line. And I think he's really going to be somewhat empowered, but also challenged by father figure to define what that looks like. So
do you feel like that challenge is also seen by the Mars square to the sun and the lights?
oh, totally
Yeah.
100%.
It's not the happiest Mars in Libra either. Like there's a lot of
Because
vacillating.
it's a hungry Jupiter, but like that Mars is frustrated a lot, I think.
Yeah, Saturn
Yeah.
and Pluto right next door. Like this Mars is very
Yeah,
frustrating.
it's a Mars that one already has to have a lot of restraint when it doesn't want to. And then it's got Saturn really like being like, you need to be the bigger person. You cannot like snap. And you've got Pluto being like, everybody's watching you. Have some fucking decorum. Like, so that's a very, I do feel like a lot of his ambitions, even though he does like the idea of having these big media partnerships, schmoozing with celebrities and other people who are influential and current, maybe in ways that kind of disempowers him to have the control he wants. Because unfortunately, if you want to have those relationships with people, you kind of have to play the game.
Yeah.
Does Mars want to do that in Libra? Absolutely not, but it has to, right? I mean, luckily it's answering to a Venus that's happy. So I think that if he's able to at least channel it into the projects he's interested in. So I do think that the causes that he's championing, at least, he's genuinely interested in them. And I think it will offset some of the challenges of the Mars, but
he also can't be perceived as being pushy or demanding or wanting certain things. And if people perceive him that way, like they won't respond to him.
No.
It's kind of tricky.
It's hard because unfortunately, William does have a childhood reputation that's kind of followed him about his temper. So I think it's very interesting that Mars is ruled by that Venus, and the nodes eventually, probably by next year, are going to be getting to that Mars. So this might also be a time for him to really check his anger, like what's going on. You have to rein it in. If you want things to go, you have to have some calm, some grace, something. Find some equilibrium. Otherwise, things are going to fall apart, and you're going to be frustrated.
The nodes transiting do worry me because I do dabble in Vedic, and the idea is that the South Node is very much like Mars in temperament, whereas the North Node is like Saturn. And so when you have Mars and the South Node together, it's like Mars on steroids.
Yeah.
Ask
In
me
a
how
day
I know.
chart, in a day chart,
Ask me how I know.
in a night chart, that's great. In a night chart, that's fantastic. That's someone who's very defensive, stands up for things that are precious, like knows how to, because nocturnal Mars is more defending people from harm, right? It's more harm reduction Mars. Diurnal Mars is like me, myself, and I, get out of my way, you know? So I do think that in
And
the process of culling,
yeah,
the temper might, yeah.
because we've already seen that when Mars was harassing his Mercury all through that long Gemini transit. And there were so many
Oh,
stories about William's incandescent. He's upset. He's mad. He can't deal with that. Like for all those months that Mars was harassing his Mercury.
yes. And you know what? So Harry's book came out
Yeah.
not too long before The Station on top of that. And it was revealed that
Yeah.
they had an altercation
Yep.
where Harry got injured. Yeah, and Mars was actually his time lord from both the ascendant and the luminaries, like up until
So we
this week.
know that Mars is like not easy for him to manage. I guess we've
No,
seen manifestation of that.
no.
So the more that Mars, I think, gets activated, the more we're likely to see that manifestation.
Mhm.
So even though he's not in a Mars year, Mars is
Oh.
still pulled in via Venus because
Via
Mars is
Venus.
ruled by Libra. Yeah,
Plus
and
the eclipses.
Yeah.
And the
So
eclipses.
I mean, and Venus and Mars do run together, right? So there is going to be this thing where he might have to learn to manage anger and frustration and channeling it better so that he can actually produce and get the fruits of his labor versus it kind of going up in flames.
And he might need to do that for health reasons even.
Yes, this is a big health year because, the first and the sixth are activated. And yes, well, he's got benefics activated. I do worry that, there's some indulgence going on. And when you're doing too much, you can run yourself into the ground, especially because his benefics are cadent. So
yeah. So a lot of times with Jupiter and Venus, it's overeating, it's overconsumption of, sweets and fats and alcohol. Jupiter loves a little alcohol. And I think there, here and there we've heard of not excessive drinking, but we've known William to drink here and there. Not in a bad way, but this year that could be exacerbated, especially if you consider he's going to be out and about schmoozing.
yes.
What's a few drinks with some friends, or I'm courting this person or doing that, and that can add up even if it's not excessive. It's just like it could be like a slow build up in a way, right? And sometimes with Taurus I think about that slow kind of building until something breaks. Okay.
Yes. Also, I mean, we'll get to that later, but thinking about the fact that Jupiter is also activated, Pluto will go back into Aquarius early next year and will be squaring that very active Jupiter. So I do think that because it's a third house transit, I don't see the relationship between Harry and William improving anytime soon.
No.
So
And those fixed signs.
Yeah,
absolutely
and then also
not.
remember that Harry is represented by Saturn.
By that Saturn.
His third house, Aquarius. So, the South Node coming to that Saturn as well, I would think more stuff around.
More stuff's going to come out.
Which might have to do with his anger again. So William is tasked potentially with what you said earlier about changing, right? In the sixth house here, maybe we need to adjust our daily routines, our habits, the way that we're going about our life to get better Venusian results versus the more volatile Mars results.
Yes. Totally 100%. I mean, he's off the hook for now when it comes to how Saturn and Pisces is affecting him. It's there, it's doing stuff. I mean, I think the trine that Saturn will make to that Jupiter is going to be nice, especially when it comes to maybe stabilizing finances or stabilizing priorities when it comes to how much he wants to invest in, his real estate and picking like a home base to be. And, Saturn does rule daily routines as well. I think that will be constructive at least. But yeah.
We'll
That's
get
what
to
I'd
that
say
because
about
we're going to
that.
see some transits and things like that. It just makes me think of the conversations that's been happening around him moving, the Adelaide Cottage situation and how cramped it is, and
Mhm.
he wants Prince Andrew's old house, and Andrew doesn't want to move out of that house or mansion. So I'm wondering if that's some of the Saturn story as well for him in the fourth house.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else about this natal chart before we go on to the solar return chart?
Oh, just to point out so that people can see the eclipse, just so you know where it is. It's the 8th house.
Oh yeah, he's an 8th house
It's
eclipse
an 8th
baby.
house eclipse baby.
Yeah. So when William was born, no pencil. When William was born, here he is, sun and moon in the 8th house with the North Node right next to it. So, right, solar eclipse when he was born. Very interesting considering the state of his parents' marriage at the time of his birth, right? They came together to do their duty, right? Continue the monarchy, 8th house, the legacy, making sure that the line goes forward, but very interesting chart.
Yeah.
Alrighty, moving on to his solar return chart. Right, so for his birthday, the sun returned back to its home position, and this is what the chart looks like. It is a Scorpio rising, moon, Venus, and Mars in Leo in the 10th. So Venus does see herself between these two charts, because Taurus to Leo do communicate. Venus being in Leo, sandwiched between the moon and Mars is very interesting, so high in the chart. So it seems like his 6th house activities will be very visible to an extent to the world. And when we put the two charts together, his natal and the solar return, we'll also see where it falls in his chart. But yes, so
the first thing I noticed right away is Mars is squaring Uranus and applying. If we just read the solar on its own, I mean, Uranus is already bringing a lot of instability to not just like his marriage, maybe, but 7th house is also like contractual partnerships and other people in general. Like, again, I think this is kind of speaking to Janelle's point earlier about needing to make the shuffling in terms of who he's partnering up with, what role they play, etc. Mars Uranus aspects can be kind of volatile, rebellious. I mean, for those of you who saw the craziness in Russia, I mean, some guy tried to lead an insurrection and it's not clear what's going on at the helm over there, but
even the submersible, right? The implosion, that's very typical of Mars and Uranus, is explosions, implosions, right? Things kind of erupting in some shape or form.
Yeah, I would say the implosion as well was very much Saturn stationing retrograde in Pisces, because that was literal.
We looked at that chart and it was so bad. It was not, it's kind of sad actually to see how blatant that chart was, but we'll get to it another day. Venus, anything else about Venus? She's talking pretty nicely to Mercury. Mercury's in good position and Gemini.
Yeah. I will say I do like the moon enclosure. Because you can look at the moon, the aspect she's making, describing your emotional needs for your year, where your kind of needs are at. And I think it's interesting that, again, moon is in the 10th whole sign house. It's in that first decan of Leo. Like, I think now he's really feeling the pressure of needing to step up as Prince of Wales, right? And I do like that the benefics are enclosing that, because one, it gives him the opportunity to kind of define what his values are and what his cultural contributions are, because the moon rules the 9th in this chart. Jupiter, I like Jupiter and Taurus in the 7th because it does speak to partnerships bringing resources to, again, support like some of these initiatives. But again, I think there's this there are these high stakes to really like prove yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I love that the moon is separating from Jupiter, which is like, okay, someone has expressed interest in maybe funding the things, applying to Venus, who gets to maybe have more influence on how those things go. Yeah.
I would hope he'd be able to fund. Okay. I mean,
Mm-mm.
just like, do you or do you not have money?
Listen,
Gosh. I'm just asking.
listen,
A whole duchy to okay. Inheritance?
listen.
No.
I don't know how those rules work, but
Yeah, true.
the money's coming from other people. Let me tell you.
My concern would be at what cost, though. Okay.
Yeah.
So remember, there was some news that came out earlier this year about William taking hush money essentially from the press. I think Rupert Murdoch, you know, to basically hush up about how the press have been abusing their power over the years. Right.
Oh, you're gonna laugh. Look at the midheaven. So remember what I said about the floating midheaven, right? So the 10th house being like the external observation of what William is doing this year, should be doing this year. What does William actually want to be doing this year? Midheaven in the 11th, ruled by Mercury in the 8th.
He wants to be doing shady stuff.
Oh, William, stop it. What are you doing?
With his buds.
He wants to crowdfund other people's money, maybe trade secrets, maybe sell them. I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, it's pretty loose, but that Mercury is also applying to Neptune. So again, more deception, things being hidden or, you know, kind of fogged over, obscured.
Selling some glamour.
Yeah.
Be good.
It's in the 5th too, so I don't know. Does he like to gamble?
Well, remember a couple of years ago, there were some issues around him and a gambling app that was being conflated with a mental health app, and people were kind of upset with him, like, hey, you can't do gambling and mental health and addiction together, because gambling is definitely an addicting thing for certain people.
I wonder.
5th house is also like emissaries and people who act on your behalf, right?
And the bride.
So yes. And I think it's kind of hilarious given that Mercury is ruling the 11th / midheaven from the 8th, which is a very transactional place, scoring that Neptune. And so I just wonder how the people who he will start including into his circles may also. So again, to give William the benefit of the doubt, it could also be that he's attracting in being swept up by like what these people are promising. He's
like
attracting
too good to be true.
Yes.
Stuff. Yeah.
Attracting these like not so savory characters into his circle who are again like maybe overpromising things on his behalf, right? So
in this chart, would William be represented by Mars as a late last degree Scorpio rising, right?
Yep.
So he does have to be mindful still of Uranus this year, where there could be unexpected situations or dramas with those partnerships that he makes with people. And it would definitely be very public if it does come to a head and goes negative.
I know Venus is ruling this year, but since Venus is ruling 7th house this in the solar return, I kind of wonder if there's just not this ongoing thing between him and his partner about who is going to be visible and who is going to be seen, since they're both at the top of the chart.
And Venus is also in control of the 12th house too.
Yeah.
Right? So it's kind of a doubling. There's a reoccurring theme in this chart around the public face of things and the secret face of things, and both coming out into the public possibly.
Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, Venus and Mars, they do not conjoin completely.
They won't conjoin because Venus will go retrograde.
So it's almost to me like they are not going to see eye to eye this year on how they should be. And they may get close a couple times, but I don't know. I almost feel like him and Catherine are on the same page regarding how they want to be seen or their image they want to project out into the world.
I would say
competing, yeah.
I would say in his chart at least, because we'd have to look at hers, but in his chart at least, it's looking like there's like a temporary alliance between them right now, because they seem to both be wanting that
Attention.
hyper visibility now that they're really stepping into their roles as Prince and Princess of Wales. I just think it's fascinating that, again, the moon applying to Venus. I
Mhm.
do think that, and knowing that Venus will spend a lot of time in Leo as well.
I feel like she gets the better end of that deal. Does that
She
make sense?
does. I mean, she's
Yeah.
also Leo rising, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
So yes.
And
Ooh, will there be a
he's
style update
like
for Kate?
almost like chasing, kind of paddling frantically to keep up. Does that make sense? Of like
Mhm.
I'm doing everything in my power just to kind of stay even with you. And she seems to like not have to work as hard. And he's maybe a little resentful of that. I don't know.
A little bit. A little
Mhm.
bit.
I'm just like, the
I'm
bar is in hell. But
I mean, wow, no, I'm also thinking about like the fact that, planets do retain a lot of their natal meanings. So like if you think about the planets that represent him and Kate in the chart. So Kate is that Mercury. He is Jupiter. I mean, Mercury's returning to its sign, so it's doubling down on what it means. So again, being more that public facing figure, what he wants to be doing. But what that means in terms of his partner, I think she wants to take on maybe more of a role, but like again, the square from Neptune, not clear on
Mhm.
how much she should be doing. And like, that Mercury's in a part of Gemini that is internally conflicted. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, how much do I need to be visible versus like how much do I need to stand back to support whatever William is trying to do?
It's almost like mixed messages. Like
Mixed messaging,
she's
yeah.
getting like one thing saying like, oh, you need to work more, you need to do it. And then the next day, like, oh, don't be too visible. Don't outshine so and so. Like, don't go to, what was it, that flower show and show up anyone, right?
So just to clarify to the audience, we're basing this based upon William's natal chart, real quick.
Yes.
Remember,
because-
he is Jupiter because he is a Sagittarius rising, and Kate is represented by Mercury because he has the 7th house cusp Gemini,
Gemini.
Mercury being the spouse.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mercury's the
So when
spouse.
we're looking at those two planets in his solar return chart, Kate would be Mercury again, and William would be Jupiter.
Yes.
Okay. And again, they're not talking to each other in this
They don't
chart.
see each other. No.
Yeah, just thinking about that, plus, Mars and Venus not conjoining. It's almost like they get close to kind of coming to the same idea and then it just doesn't
And then
happen.
they just don't. Yep.
Yeah, it doesn't meet. They're not connecting. They're not working as a team, essentially. And it shows, unfortunately, in their public, appearances.
Yeah.
Like even people who don't pay attention to the royal family are kind of noticing that there seems to be friction between them or a lack of even friendship at this point. So it's something that they really have to consider, and it might not be something that is resolved this year. In fact, it might get worse because again, in the solar return chart, they are not connecting where they need to as a united force.
No.
Remember too that like in the natal chart, William is Venus and Taurus squaring Venus in Leo, which is Catherine's. Just like another way that they're at
another way that they're at odds.
They're at odds. They're not working together.
I mean, just thinking about the overlays of things, which is fascinating to me. I love that South Node is right on his midheaven. It's between his midheaven and Jupiter in the 12th. And because that's in the
Should
all
we
of
go
the
to the overlay?
Scorpios,
Okay.
go the overlay. So I love that all the Scorpio stuff is in the 12th. The dude has to confront a lot of maybe self-limiting, self-defeating, maybe dealing with a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we can't see. The South Node being so close to his midheaven and Jupiter, again, kind of what we were saying earlier, this purging of identity and maybe purging of like original intentions for like how he wants to engage in his charitable projects, as well as like how he wants to be sort of the power behind the throne, if you will.
With the late ascendant being like, you got to do it now, like you're running out of time.
There's like an urgency. Yeah.
Like, how old are you? Like, okay, let's go.
I mean, also him being Jupiter in the 6th house, it's just like you have to do something. Anything.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Something. Put something tangible on the table so at least you have something on the books, right? Because up until this point, aside from Earthshot, I'm
It's
not
also
sure.
relatively new.
pretty new.
Mhm.
Most of the projects that he used to do was in conjunction with his brother, who he's now on the outs with, right? And so I
Yeah.
think there's a lot to do with him having resentment towards his younger brother and Harry getting all the acclaim and yada, yada, yada. And now he's like, I got to do something. I have to do something. And also, I think the South Node clearing out that Jupiter that represents him, like you said, what do you need to let go of
Yeah.
to be the person that you want to be, right? And for Scorpio
Yeah.
Jupiter, I'm not sure that's going to come very easy for him.
No, I mean, it doesn't help that he's going through his Jupiter opposition, and Jupiter's in fucking indulgent ass Taurus. Like, just
Because it's going to be very tempting to be the escapist Jupiter and like be, hedonistic and not self-reflective.
And things just come to me, right? And
yeah,
you
like
know, yeah.
Yeah, I find that Earth Jupiter, like I reflected on this in a post I made. The reason that Jupiter struggles with Earth is it's contrary to Jupiter's nature. Jupiter is a faith moral based planet. Earth signs are like, show me the money. And you can lose sight of your why if you get caught up in material
What?
indicators of what you're doing, right? And I think that's going to be a huge challenge for William.
I think also with Venus being in Leo, right? There is, Leo on a bad day can be very egotistical, right? And I am king or will be king and I deserve and I want. But it's just like, but have you earned that position, right? People don't like entitled people generally.
No.
Right?
No.
What makes you think that you deserve it? And I think also with this Jupiter and Taurus, going into that indulgent route, thinking that things should just come to him because he wants it to come to him versus actually putting in the effort could be not ideal for him in terms of his public image.
I mean, I think he will be putting in the effort just because his chart ruler would be in the 6th. It's just that between the fact that it's in an earth sign, it's still close to the North Node, which is like already having you chasing illusions and ghosts. Like, I think he's gonna get caught up in like the glitz and glamour as opposed to the why the fuck are we doing this? Why does this matter? Because I think that some of the things he will do are lucrative and interesting and people want to invest in them clearly, but there's more to it than just that, right?
And the eclipses in those houses are very much like, you got to prove it, right? Like, I'm sorry, but not in Taurus. Like if you're like asking somebody to invest in you, or you have a new idea or something you want to get started, like they need to see the receipts. They need to see the long-term business plan. They need to see how this is going to work, and that you have a proven track record of being able to do it as well. Like love, stability, and consistency. And it's like, man, that's going to be a tough sell.
I think also considering that Venus is in that 9th house, it's like, is the why, are you doing this because you want good press?
Exactly, with Venus ruling the 11th natally.
People might be a little shy about like taking him at his word that he cares about it.
Or are you doing this because you're competing with your wife? Like, are you like, what if you said the why?
Are you doing it because you're competing with your relatives?
Exactly.
Or your dead mom? Venus?
Yeah, I mean, it's
it was paranoid, because his track record is a little bit sparse,
shaky.
A little shaky. So,
and these are all fixed signs that demand you show, what you've been able to do
consistently.
Yeah. I think about gold in Leo, like not all that glitters is gold.
Absolutely
right?
not.
So you show me the money, show me the receipts, like Mo said, I want to see what you're really talking about. Otherwise, people might ridicule him, unfortunately.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility. So William has to be very clear about who he is, right? Get rid of William, go to therapy, please. Go to therapy, my guy. You can afford a therapist to help you work through your insecurities, your fears, all that kind of stuff, so that you can be better at doing your work as opposed to competing with people for positive press, right? Because I think we're coming into a time that people are very much not into vanity projects.
Mhm.
Right? People are hungry, people are suffering. The UK is going through some really seriously terrible times. And if you're
Yeah.
out here trying to look good at the expense of the homeless, people are not going to dig that.
And do not let them
No.
send you on one of these overseas tours right now, and with
No.
this chart in the ninth house looking like that.
LOL. I mean, look at the freaking midheaven. Like, yes, it's in the 10th whole sign house, but like that also
Mm.
corresponds to the return 11th. And I do think that there's something shifting when it comes to William's relationship with the press.
Mhm.
And the contractual obligations he has to them, because Mercury is returning to its sign, even if it's in a different decan. So when planets return to the same place, they're doubling down on their meanings. You just look at the house that they've gone into in the solar return so that you can add additional meanings. So I think that, again, like there's something that's going to change with respect to maybe how he communicates with the media, what secrets are shared, what sorts of partnerships he does. I do feel like he will probably be doing, because it seems like looking at their Instagram feed and some of their social media feeds, that they are moving more towards this like mini documentary style of like the things that they're working on. And I think that you may see like more of that peeking behind the curtain at what we're working on, so that he and Kate can appear more relatable.
Industrious, relatable.
Yeah. I do also wonder as well if some of this might also shine a light on what's going on with Kate and her family, and if you'll start seeing a lot more of the same leaking we were seeing about the breakdown of like her family's business. And I thought the timing of that was really strange, especially after Kate went to the flower show and she was trying to do more engagements, and then all of a sudden all they could talk about was her parents and their business and all this other stuff. So I think there's something going on there. Definitely.
This family, they're pretty brutal to each other, gotta tell you.
Yeah.
All right, anything else about the solar return chart on top of the natal charts? No. I guess I was talking about before, it's just like, this ninth house being so prominent with Venus being in there, but also the ruler of his 12th house, Mars, right? And the 8th house ruler, the moon, being in there too. And also the 5th house ruler for Mars, again, being very mindful about what comes out into the press and into the public world, right? So
yes,
it's kind of a fine line to be walking. And he has
And
to
I
be
think
honest. Yeah.
they also may be pushing them to do that. Like, and it may not be in ways that they want necessarily, so they're going to have to like figure out, am I going to do what I want to do, which is, where I want to live, or am I going to do what everyone else expects me to do? And I don't know, I feel like they're probably trying to push some sort of overseas goodwill trip on them again. And I don't know why. The last one was not great.
No, it was not.
But what else? Like, what are you all? I mean, like the ninth house just being so prominent like that. I'm like, they're trying to send these people overseas.
Yeah.
I mean, none of their tours have gone well. I mean, even when they came here to the States and were in Boston, the reception was not ideal for them. Wasn't great. I mean, why send them to Irish Boston?
Right.
That was
Celtics. And to see Biden.
Should have sent them to New York. Holy shit. Like, God.
Sent them here. No, I'm joking. But yeah, so they have to be very mindful about where they're sent, or maybe they should just stay local and do their best to help their home, like their country that they're going to be ruling over at some point in time. So
it's not going to look good if they're seen as being like jet setter type people who leave when the going gets tough.
Yeah.
I haven't been staying on top of the UK news too much, but I can't imagine that Brexit is going any better.
No,
I can't imagine that the cost of living crisis is getting any better.
No.
It's going to be a very hot summer with the stellium of Leo in the chart. And we already know that Europe is not necessarily set up for hot summers. They have always struggled.
They have this moral hatred of AC, which I'm like, Okay.
Listen, I get it, but
Okay.
those days are over. You have to be prepared for hot summers because it's hard for us to hear about how people die each summer when it gets hot
Yeah.
for you guys. And that's not going to get any better. So I think it'd be great for him to stay home and to actually do some good work and gain and earn his reputation the good old-fashioned way versus expecting it to be laid out on a golden platter.
Like hard work is the answer.
Yeah, 6th house, do the work and you will be rewarded.
Do the work, girl.
Do the work.
But
Right,
remember
There's
why you
no
started.
easy way out.
there's no easy way out.
Right.
At
But I
all.
will say, remember why you started, because sometimes when you get caught up in the achievement, you like get distracted by, oh, all these people want to make deals with me and they want to do this. And it's just like, it's easy to get off track really quick.
And also burnout too.
Go
Yeah.
talk to your uncle Andrew about how badly that can go
God.
when you hang out with the wrong people and listen to your own bullshit.
Yup.
Yeah. Girl, we will not. We will not. All right, very briefly, his progress. No, that's the event chart. This is a tri-wheel, real quick for William.
Progressions.
With his progressions involved,
Progressions
real
and
quick.
transits.
Which
Yes.
Janelle says is really easy to read, you guys.
If it's not, let us know. But the middle ring is his natal chart. The ring on the middle, I believe, is what his secondary progress. Yes.
Secondary
And the
progress.
outside is what's happening in the sky right now. Again, more Leo shit.
More
right?
Leo. It's
More
so
Leo. He's now a Leo sun by progression. Mercury is also in Leo by progression, right? They're pretty close, I think, to that Venus-Mars
More
situation.
Leo, more
Hell, the
Libra.
moon is actually on that sun,
Yeah.
the solar return chart. I think what stood out to me was that now he has a progressed moon in Capricorn.
Oh,
Well, no wonder he's depressed.
Applying to that south node. So over the next 6 months or so, I'd be very, even longer, because it's going to get to his natal south node. But he needs to be on top of, his mood.
And his money.
And his money. But he is also going into a full moon phase. So he's working towards a full moon phase in his chart. Eventually, he's going to get to a full moon. Probably in the next 2 years?
Next 2 years or so.
Building his brand. Like this, what he does now is what he's going to be known for.
Yeah.
Like for good or bad.
For good or bad.
Either way.
Yeah. No, Mars is not going to change signs for a while. No, that's not this year. We're not worrying about what Mars is doing.
No, but Libra again. Libra and Leo echoing again.
Echoing.
Now we got Saturn in Libra, Pluto in Libra, Mars in Libra, on top of his natal stuff.
Yeah. So, interesting. Okay, no, that's out in the sky. All right. It's interesting that Kate is now this Mercury in Leo. It has been for a while. But
yeah,
they still don't meet. Where's Jupiter in this chart? At least Jupiter's third.
It's interesting to see that it doesn't matter which way you run their charts. They're not on the same page.
Not on the same page. No. Where's
difficult.
Venus is in Cancer in the progress chart in the 8th.
Meeting his North Node. Oh.
Everyone's all up in their feelings.
So there's definitely some destined things, I think, happening.
Yeah.
But it is behind the scenes. We can't all see it. And he has to be careful about, ethics, morals, the shit you do in the dark. Make sure you're not going to be embarrassed if it gets out in the public eye.
Well, so I see that, progressed Venus is like going to perfect with natal Saturn soon. And I do think that maybe there's more like media public tension with sibling that's coming. So
leave your brother alone. Just stop. Let it go.
There's no reason for all this.
There's no reason.
But I mean, Saturn also rules his money, right? And I do think that people may have more questions or interests in, the relationships he has with people and how that's funding him, right? And supporting his projects. So I think that that's also happening too.
So, right, the 11th house has connotations around money made from your business, right? Because it's the second house from the 10th house, or at least it can. And so, the progress ruler of this 11th house is still Venus in the 8th. So coming in from other people, right? Cancer can have some stuff around property.
Why doesn't he have his own money?
Why doesn't he have his own money?
Because
I mean, look, the ruler of his
the
second
south
is in
node.
the 11th, exalted. It's covetous. He doesn't need his
Yes.
own money. He has everyone else's. Like,
Well,
everyone else's money.
Now remember, because we have the eclipses coming in pretty soon, when these nodes move into 11th, into Libra, and into Aries, this shit is going to start getting activated. Second house, 8th house, 11th, and 5th. So this money situation is not going away for the next 18 months.
Oh, could you pull up the Libra eclipse? I believe it's on the 14th of October.
Give me a second here. Let me go to his natal and let's do a little animation. All right. What day is it?
October 14th.
All right. So let's speed up.
It's at like 21 Libra, I believe.
Right
the
on my.
eclipse.
Oops, not days.
21
Libra hours. That's us, Kelly.
What? What I do?
No, I'm just saying
Libra.
that eclipse is on us.
No, I don't receive it.
I don't receive it.
Look, the eclipse, I mean, this eclipse is interesting for a couple of reasons, because one, I do think that it does relate to how he sources his income, but then two, again, maybe some more stuff around things going on with siblings.
There's Venus. Venus will be in Virgo.
Yeah, Venus is in Virgo in the 10th.
10th, yeah. Okay. So she's in control. And where's Mars?
Mars is
in Scorpio.
Newly in Scorpio.
Ooh,
on top,
right on the
applying
midheaven.
to yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Applying. So
huh.
So this eclipse is happening in the last decan of Libra, which is kind of like needing to do something that seems kind of like the opposite of what you should do in order to maintain equilibrium, right? You're doing the thing that people don't expect you to do because it's going to help you keep the peace or make balance in some way. And there can be a sort of like PR vibe to that last part of Libra. I mean, think about a lot of the people who have placements there. It can be kind of one, micromanagey of reputation, but two, it can also be kind of trollish, like, so I do think that maybe there will be something that comes up around stuff going on with Harry. I think it's interesting that Mercury's caught up in the eclipse, is conjoined, progressed, but also natal Saturn. And, Mercury does rule, again, the public, contracts, legal matters, because, litigation is very 7th house. Mercury also rules the 10th. So I'm wondering if there's, again, more stuff maybe related to Harry's lawsuits that might affect
more of his
what's going on with William, which makes him need to like distance from people, or maybe he has like a response to things that people don't expect, right? Because they expect him to act a certain way based on what is, typically reported in the media. But it's like, I think maybe the approach will be different somehow.
It's interesting that the South Node is also going to be on his progressed Mars.
On progressed Mars, yeah.
Mars ruling over the 12th house and also the 5th house. So I'm wondering again if it's like you said before, stuff coming out into the public eye about what he's been up to, the things that he's been enjoying
recreationally,
affairs, children. The 11th house also has connotations to like your spouse's children, or like
or just other people's children.
People's children. But I was getting the vibe like, do you have any additional children outside of your marriage kind of stuff? Not saying that he does, but it did come to mind. Because if the press has been covering for him or paying him off, because remember, every time William gets into trouble, there's certain journalists that come out into the Twitter sphere. It's just like, I wish we could talk about the shit that we can't talk about. William, like, what guys have on this
Yeah,
man?
what do you guys want to
What
talk
are you
about?
hiding? But
Why
I
won't you
think
just talk about
you
it?
just say it, but there's some sort of transaction that makes it look they cannot. But this might be the unraveling of that, with the South Node saying, no, that's not fair or just, right? So things to consider with William in that regard. And I think this eclipse will be, when we look at Harry's chart, I think this will be what, his 10th house?
10th house for
10th
Harry.
house.
I mean, okay, this might be crazy, but I really do think that Harry's gonna give away the titles, because I don't see him coming back to the fold, and like, I just don't see it. I don't.
Fair enough.
Think about it. South Node eclipses in the 10th, like, no. Just no. I'm sorry, guys. No.
We'll discuss this more when we get to Meghan and Harry, but
Meghan and Harry.
you know, it would not be too surprising at this point, because you know they've been gone 3 years, right? And it's still like this relentless attack. And it's just like, why associate with people who are making it so hard for us to just be peaceful away from them?
Yeah.
You know, so I could definitely see that happen.
I mean, think about it. I mean, look at the Mercury too on top of the Saturn. I mean, the planet that rules status, reputation on top of the sibling. South Node eclipse. The sun is also, because the sun is being eclipsed, you look at the condition of the sun, like, that's a depressed ass sun, just coming off of its max depression. Like, this is not a fun eclipse.
And also square to Pluto.
Yeah, so I feel like there's something happening with sibling, status of sibling, that does affect, or not just because, you know, Saturn's also extended family as well. You know, could be, I mean, it could be something with Andrew too. I mean, why not?
And then we also still have this Saturn in the 4th house cooking. Jeez. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's.
And then also the moon on the South Node. So, yeah, there is some level of heartbreak going on, regardless of whether or not he says it or not. You know, this can be a sad time to an extent, I think, for William.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
Yeah, it's interesting because, you know, if we go ahead 2 weeks, there's actually that eclipse in Taurus at like 5 degrees.
Yeah, which would actually be on his wedding chart, sun, by 3 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So,
fascinating.
What is it? The 28th?
Yeah, 28th.
Yes. So where are, okay, got it.
Close enough. Like,
roughly. Here we go.
5
Give
degrees.
or take. So that will be again on his midheaven. It's Jupiter.
Yep.
He doesn't get a break.
He doesn't.
It's just go.
I just think that, because again, think about the dignity of the luminary being eclipsed. This time it's the moon. It's the moon coming off its exaltation degree. Like, I think this eclipse is better than the other one, but the way I see it is, when you have the luminaries in domicile or exaltation, so Cancer eclipses, Taurus eclipses of moon, and then you've got the solar eclipses in Aries and Leo, I think that usually brings some kind of good news, maybe in an unstable way, right? So maybe something coming to fruition with a project that he really wants to take off. But like, again, as we were talking about eclipses earlier, there's something about it that makes things accelerate, maybe in a way that's not comfortable. Yeah.
Or you have to make a compromise you didn't want to in order to get it.
Look, his chart ruler is getting eclipsed too, because it's in the lunar eclipse.
Okay, so his chart ruler being Jupiter.
Yep.
Since he is a Sag rising, but also there's some pretty heavy duty Pluto stuff happening with the nodes. We have Pluto conjunct the South Node, and then also loosely squared to Pluto out in the sky.
Pluto.
So there's definitely some deeply transformative stuff happening. And Pluto can be Pluto kind of reminds me of the Tower sometimes in tarot.
Oh, totally. 100%.
Where he's just like, I'm knocking this shit off your table because you have to heal. And it sucks, it's painful, but you will be much better off in the aftermath if you're willing
Pluto and
to
Mars.
go through with it.
Yeah. The Tower very much has like Pluto and Mars energy, like very much like immediate destruction. Like, You have to act now,
Yeah.
basically.
Ooh, William, good luck. It is a year of work
Mhm.
in a lot of different ways. If you show up with, I think, good intentions and a good heart and a willingness to heal and to change and to do differently, it may not be as dramatic, I think.
Mm.
But if William continues to be the William that he has been in the public eye, it might be really tough, I think.
You know, I don't think he will be the William he has been, but we don't know if it's going to be for better or worse.
Okay.
We'll see.
Mhm.
We'll see.
And don't
We'll see.
compromise, why you started doing anything in the first place.
Exactly.
And
So
don't compete with your wife.
Don't compete with your wife,
It's
your
loser
father, or your
behavior.
brother. Like, it's not good. So listeners and watchers, definitely, keep us up to date. If you notice some stories around what we've been talking about with William, drop us a comment, drop us a link so that we can compile these things. And maybe at the end of the year, probably next summer before his next birthday, we can kind of look at the condensed
We'll get a review.
the review of his 6th house year, and if it went to
Report
plan,
card.
his report card to see if what we said kind of manifested, or maybe William surprises us because Uranus is a part of this dynamic. So
It is.
we might be shocked.
Definitely.
All right, so let's move on to Miss Catherine.
Lady Catherine.
Lady Catherine is also in a 6th house year. She moved into her 6th house year in January because she had her birthday at the top of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So, but her 6th house is ruled by Saturn, since Capricorn is on the cusp.
Yep.
So Saturn in Libra is
In
the
the
ruler
third.
of the year. Right?
I mean, even though Saturn is exalted, she is a night chart. And that's yes, Saturn's exalted, but that's a difficult Saturn. It's like basically besieged, like sandwiched in between. I consider Pluto a malefic. So
Shocking.
that's not, I mean, some people are like, Pluto's so sexy. I'm like, no.
What?
Go to therapy, please. Go to therapy.
Daddy issues.
Also, just to remind people, night chart Saturn is inherently cold, right? In nature, the
It's
cold
too
of
much.
night makes him even colder, more brittle, and harsher than he.
Yes.
typically is.
And because there's no light at night, Saturn could just like impose as many limits as it wants. You don't know when to stop. You don't know when to stop. Always
So would-
punishing yourself. Like,
So would
it's
this be a very
nuts.
oppressing kind of Saturn?
Yes, it's an oppressive year for her. Which
And
sucks
she's
because
overwhelmed with responsibilities, I think. Yeah.
yes, I mean, look at where her sun is. So one thing you can do with perfections is see when a whole sign house meets its ruler, and this is big for her. Her ascendant's meeting its lord in the 6th. Like,
She's also supposed to be working, but she's like overworking.
yes, I mean, look at the Saturn squaring her sun really tight. I mean, this is a year where she's being, picked apart, analyzed. I mean, 3rd house also does have connotations of media, maybe more in the gossip foddery way. I do think people are really picking apart at what she's doing, and that Saturn being exalted has a lot of high standards for the things that she's doing. And so Saturn rules partner in her chart as well.
Yes. Saturn.
And
so in this chart, Saturn would also represent William, correct?
yep.
Yeah.
And she's the sun, and they are not in a harmonious.
Oh my God. You know what I just realized? Like, look at the reception. So the sun respects Saturn because it's in Saturn sign. Saturn does not like the sun because the sun has fallen in Libra. So, I mean, there's this tension where she's trying her best to be perfect.
She's
but
working.
There's like constant criticism. I also think it's interesting that she's been doing a lot more engagements locally. 3rd house being like your locale,
neighborhood.
your neighborhood. So I think that's one thing that's positive. Like, I think that while I've seen some people give Kate flack for, oh, she's only doing things close to her. I'm like, actually, that's not a bad thing. Like, I think it's probably better because it shows that she's trying to at least do something of value for people in her country. Like, and she's not out here jet setting, right?
Well, how do you feel about Saturn's ruler being this retro Venus in Aquarius? Is there something about this where what she does is not received the way that she intends it?
So actually, because Venus is in her own decan,
Hmm.
I think Venus is actually doing okay.
Okay.
I think Venus is okay.
Mhm.
So when planets are in their own decan, they kind of have special superpowers, right? And so that particular part of Aquarius, very stereotypical. I don't fit in anywhere. Let me go find my tribe of weirdos who understand what I'm doing, right? And I think that ironically, Kate has been able to do that to some extent. I mean, look at the fact that Mercury and Venus are mutually applying, right?
Mhm.
So I do think that that is kind of working to her advantage. It's helping her out for sure. And then on top of that, her Venus is bona fide because it's square Jupiter, right?
Mhm.
Like they're almost exactly square. So Jupiter ruling fifth house of creative pursuits. I mean, Jupiter also ruling children, Jupiter ruling, other people's money. I mean, I think that people are, even though she's like not the most conventional, and I'm not just saying this because she's a commoner by birth. She's not like polished and put together in the way that some of the other royal consorts are, right? I think people are empathetic, sympathetic towards her, right? And I do think some of that is because people do hold William in high regard, because I mean, look at Venus and Saturn, they're exchanging signs with each other. So the
Yes.
reception is good. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
I don't know, like it's
I wonder, not to say that this is going to happen, but I wonder if her second marriage would be better for her if she ever. Not really. Not really.
no, because
No.
if what second marriage would be what, ninth house?
Ninth house ruled by
So
Mars.
it's funny because in Vedic you would count eight houses from the seventh. So I think your second marriage would actually be the second house instead of the ninth.
Okay.
And so it would be ruled by Mercury, which I
Mhm.
think for her would be a lot better. Like, so depending on which rules you want to use, I think, theoretically, if she were to have a second marriage, I think it'd be better. I'm just saying.
I think she also needs to be careful with her health the same way William
Definitely. Yep.
needs to, and like having better habits and like taking care of the little things. But it's
Yeah.
going to be tempting probably not to, because she has so many other responsibilities.
Yeah, and I feel like they've also glorified her thinness over the years, right? That seems to be a thing in the UK
Yeah.
where that, the UK is a Capricorn sun as well. And I think someone mentioned like they have a thing for like legs and slenderness. There's a lot of commentary about them being, I forgot how they quote it or say it, but it's just like people are envious of her slenderness or her thinness, and Saturn, again, that restrictive quality, that not taking in enough nourishment, and her Saturn being so oppressive. She has to be very careful about not eating enough or not sleeping enough, like doing the basic things, because this can be a year that things break down, especially because she is a sun on the South Node,
Yeah. Though I feel like one way she can mitigate that is, I mean, she just has to lean into her sporty Kate era. I think that one, it gives her a reason to be active, and two, I think again, people are really receptive to that. It also seems like something she's actually
likes to
interested
do.
in. So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, again, we can also do perfections from the sect light, and like William, her sect light is in Cancer. Like, so Jupiter again is also active, but this time it's coming to the fifth house for her. So I think again, maybe more concerns with children, like her children, maybe just children as a topic. I think it seems like she's doing a lot more with the early childhood stuff, and she's really trying to do that. But I also can't help but wonder if like they're part of the reason that there's so much speculation about where they're living and everything is because the children are all growing, right? And they all have growing needs, and obviously now that they are full on like next in line to the throne family, like they actually have to actively start thinking about where's George going to school? Like, how are we going to prep him for basically being what William is now? What about the other two? Like, just having to manage that. I think that might be a lot more of her focus this year. So
Interesting.
Worrying too about how to have all of her kids have a meaningful role.
yes.
With
I mean,
that.
say what you want about Kate, but I think, with that Scorpio Jupiter ruling the 5th and the 8th, really trying to like make sure they have a legacy that makes sense. I think she's really gonna fight tooth and nail for that.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. I think it's very interesting. I don't know. I won't comment too much, but the children in relation to William in her chart. Just something. There have been rumors about Adelaide College and whether or not he's living. Like, these are just the things that we hear in rumor, and I think it has to come up because these are things that might come out into the public sphere if they're true or not.
yeah.
So it's just like, if the marriage is suffering, which I think we will see that it kind of is, just based upon the astrology, especially with the South Node finishing up its time in the 4th house. Right?
Well, and we saw how in William's chart how they're not on the same page.
Not on the same page. And in her chart, it shows up as, there's kind of a contentious relationship between them, where William, being Saturn, is very critical of Kate.
Of her.
And
feels responsible for her, critical of her.
And
like
Kate's trying, right, to do her best. She's trying to live up to that ideal.
Yeah. And maybe there's some resentment on both their parts,
Well,
because
sure.
it's kind of like, how dare you? Like, I know I have to like go along with what you say, but like this, like, kind of, you're so far, especially because the Saturn's exalted, it's like you're kind of untethered from reality a little bit.
And unfortunately, just having to mention this, it brings me no happiness to say this, but again, there have been rumors about, or little snippets in the press, like, these two fight, Kate gives it as good as she gets it, and sometimes the vases are being thrown. I'm like, wait, what?
That's not fun.
That's not funny. That's not cute. That's not a healthy
No.
marriage if things are being thrown at people, right? With Mars and Pluto being here, and also in William's chart where we talked about his temper and things that he has to manage this year. This gives me a little bit of pause when I'm just like, what's happening behind the scenes? Because this can be very influential on Kate, on her well-being, right?
Yeah.
And it's happening in that sensitive part of the chart that's her neighborhood and home and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, it's not like happening somewhere far away from home. It's like her day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, I think also, again, the media being really flippant about it, it's just kind of like, this is not funny.
Normalizing domestic violence or things like that is not cool.
No.
Especially people who are supposed to be like the upper crust of whatever bullshit class
Aren't they
hierarchy.
supposed to be examples to everybody?
Exactly.
Isn't that the whole deal?
You would think.
I mean, this is also very emotionally difficult, right? Squares to her sun, or her moon, I should say.
Yeah.
And also the ruler of the IC, home and family, is also that Mars involved too.
I think she feels very isolated, for sure.
Because that's 12 houses from the 4th, right? So the home life, it might look pretty, right? We might have a nice house.
Well, the aesthetics are nice, yeah.
Aesthetics are nice, but internally there seems to be a lot of shit going on, at least based upon these charts, right? And it's not necessarily complementary to Kate, her emotional well-being, right? I think the only good thing I can say is that the children may not be suffering as much because they are not in direct connection to this. So she might be kind of shielding them a little bit in some shape or form.
Yeah, I mean, look at also the fact that the Jupiter is like, again, in that tight configuration of Venus. Like, I think that there's like a good support system. Like, ironically, the support system comes from the spouse and the access that the spouse has, but like the support system is helping her again secure that future for them. Because I think that that's probably her priority at the end of the day. Like,
I mean, ideally, with Pluto coming back into the fold into Capricorn, it doesn't get as far as her sun or her south node, but it's still Pluto, you know,
It's there.
it's there. And also with the nodes going into Libra and Aries, coming home to these planets that we were just looking at, that does give me some concern.
That's stress, baby.
It's a lot of pressure on her that will kind of complete, a grand cross in the chart, right? So we were talking about this before we got on, but I was like, how there's some missing data about when the last times the nodes were in Aries Libra for them between December 2004 and June 2006. There's missing information about their relationship. That's very odd to me. So seeing this in her chart makes me a little bit concerned. That's all.
It's curious.
It is curious.
I'm just fascinated about, like, remember the Libra eclipse we talked about? Maybe we should wait till we get to the transits, but I just find it fascinating. It's right on Saturn, who again rules not only her day-to-day responsibilities, but also again, spouse, partner. So again, I think that eclipse, just because like it's not hitting William, Saturn is Kate's time lord, and William is married to her. He's being Saturn in her chart. By virtue of that, he's being affected by that eclipse. So,
and it's just another testimony in both their charts as to the struggle in the marriage and the relationship. Just repeating patterns over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, they just finished that Saturn and Aquarius transit, right? I can't remember all the details, but again, not on the same page, struggle, Now Saturn has moved into Pisces. Maybe a little bit better to an extent for her. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like not touching a lot of things. So yeah.
A little bit more supportive to the moon and the
and
sun.
Jupiter. Yeah.
And Jupiter. So maybe some of the pressure is lifted, but in other ways, there's still some stuff to deal with for her.
Yeah.
Wonder if she's gonna renegotiate some of that. I don't know if she had a prenup or what, but
something, girl, please.
Some contract or something that
tell me you're a proper Capricorn girl. Because that's not,
or for her kids, some legacy for her kids or something along those lines.
I think the good news is that Venus being in Leo for so long and in her first house this year might bring some support. I don't know.
Oh my God, Jupiter in the 10th too. I mean, it's a great year to be a Leo rising. Like, I think that this is, as much as William would like attention, and I guess Charles as well. I mean, the thing is, Charles, Camilla, and Kate all have the Leo rising. So I do think that, this is a positive year for all of them in terms of making a case for their public perception. I do think that Kate is probably going to benefit a lot more than the
William.
other two. And William, but
which might breed more resentment though, right? Because we know probably historically William does not do well with not getting the attention he thinks he wants or needs. So concern. Let's move over to the solar return chart. So this is for her birthday at the top of the year.
Same angles.
So also Leo rising. Interesting. This 9 degree of Leo, that's where William's solar return moon is, at 9 Leo.
Yes, it is.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, Kate got all the stuff before everything shifted. So she still got Jupiter in Aries in the 9th. Again, I think that's positive for like doing more of her creative projects and, investing in those things that are culturally relevant. I think that's speaking to her initiation of these like early childhood programs that she's trying to push. So that's good. What else is happening? She still has Saturn and Aquarius in that chart, opposing the moon. That's kind of intense. So I mean,
and Uranus in between the two.
Struggle with partners continue.
It's a little bit destabilizing, probably to an extent, to the home and public life. It's just, you're fighting with your partner who should be your teammate, right? So it's hard enough being in the public eye and having to look good to everybody and not making, wrong moves. But then you have your teammate who's pretty much if not openly against you, dismissive and not collaborating, not cooperating with you. That can't be easy.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. She still has the Mars retrograde too. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's trine Venus, and Venus is returning to its like spot. So I think that Venus is doubling down on her meaning for the year. So Venus normally rules like what, third house of communications and 10th house of public image, in the house of spouse. And again, I do think that we're gonna see more of this like attempt by William and Kate to modernize how they communicate with the public. So more of that, again, documentary style in a way that's really different from the way Charles and Camilla are doing things. And that much is obvious with their fashion choices as well, thus far.
What do you think about the ruler of the midheaven, Mars in this case, being retro on the 11th?
I mean,
and isn't this on William's Mercury?
Yeah, it's on his Mercury. It's on his Mercury. Yeah.
She's annoying the shit out of him.
I mean, on top of that, I mean, just thinking about like, again, being dragged through the media in terms of like, because Mars also rules family, right? Them dragging her parents and their business and the things they were working on, and that being how that's kind of played out, right?
Kate. So is this a good year for Kate? I mean, it's not
stressful.
easy. It's not an easy
year compared to the year William's going to have, even though I think that, you know, more of the transits are net positive for her. Maybe the experience is still really challenging.
I think how it feels to her is very stressful, even though she's able to, I think, project a little bit more of that, you know, smiling face. The things at home are difficult.
Like, no, I'm gonna be real with you guys. Like when she moves into the double Saturn perfection next year, like when she's in the 7th house year, I think that's gonna be a really stressful year for Kate. 2024. This is gonna be really stressful
she's
for
not
her.
getting a break after this year.
No.
Yeah, and you know, the eclipses will be tighter to her lights, her sun, her moon, that Libra configuration. The wedding chart, which we'll look at, of course, now, because we have to look at it now, because there's too many. There's too much going on.
A preview, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this year's very much a preview.
Look what's coming attractions for you. Stress.
Sorry, fireworks are going off outside my window, so that should give you a sign. Just my heart jumped out my chest.
What an omen. What an omen.
Boom. Kate, anything else you want to say about this chart? Uranus on the North Node and the 10.
Under pressure.
Yes, very much under pressure. I mean, the ascendant is in that part of Leo too. Like she's under more scrutiny because again, you're now Princess of Wales. It's time to step up.
Right?
And
Let's go.
Of course, you know, and I feel this way too. I'm like, the only Princess of Wales I know is Princess Diana, girl. So I don't know who you are. Like...
Listen, we already discussed that the title is cursed. So
did we talk about that online?
We did.
All right.
We didn't?
No, we didn't.
I thought we did.
No, I made a whole PowerPoint and didn't do it.
Oh, we didn't? No. All right. So we have to do that. So the Princess of Wales title is a little bit not
great.
You don't want to hold it, is what we're saying.
You don't.
So we might have to come back around and do that and tell you why.
I could have sworn we did it, but okay.
We spoke about it together, but we didn't record it.
Oh, I made a whole PowerPoint and we talked about it and then we never did it.
We never did it.
Okay.
Damn.
That's like, we got to do it now. We got to do it.
But yeah, I think that title essentially belongs to Diana forever, personally. And I don't know if it's going to be much use to Kate because Diana's presence, her energy, everything about that woman is still looming over this family.
Oh, totally.
Still looming. So we'll have to look at Diana's chart too at some point in time and see what's going on with it because it might be activated in some way that we're not seeing quite yet. I mean, Diana's a Cancer sun. These Aries, Libra eclipses are going to pull her back in anyway. But we might get some news about her. We don't know yet. All right. I mean, Kate, I would also say there's some wounding too with Chiron next to the midheaven and the ninth. So it's not going to be an easy run press-wise for Kate, even though she's in the
No.
public eye so much over the past, 6 months already for her solar return year. Even though she's in the public eye and being seen, the response has been very mixed towards her, I think. In terms of people being very critical. Like, what are you doing?
Arrows and barbs, you know?
Yeah, like
Hitting
people
her.
are looking for substance. And I would say being ruled by this Mars in Gemini retro, it might seem a little bit superficial,
Yeah.
It's mixed.
flighty.
It's mixed.
Yeah, it's
I
mixed.
mean, that's what happens when you chase the scapegoats out of the country. I mean, you need new blood. Like you can't, like you can only manufacture so many stories about Harry and Meghan forever. Like they're like literally not actively trying to be in the public eye that much. And
We haven't seen Meghan. We've seen Harry. Well, Harry's been out and about for the court case, but we really haven't seen.
well,
him
he
in the
also
public
just
eye.
did like a military event, like maybe a couple weeks ago. Meghan, haven't seen her since like
The car
May.
chase.
The
Yeah,
car
the car
chase.
chase.
Haven't seen her since. So
And what a luxury that is for her, for him to be able to say, we don't need to be seen. And they're still talking about them. They're still dragging their name into the public eye, but they're not in the public eye themselves, which is a very interesting dynamic, actually. Yeah. So
yeah,
Kate,
and with K2 going into Harry's 10, I think we're gonna see less of Harry in the public. So
because he wants to be home with his kids and his wife and his nice house. I want to be at his nice house.
Have you been to Montecito?
Hello?
I would never leave, so I don't know what he's doing.
There's a beach next door, you know.
oh wait, but
like-
isn't Invictus coming? I think that's like the next time we'll
Yes.
probably see them.
Where is it going to be? Is it in Canada?
No,
No,
it's
that's the
one in
winter
Germany.
one.
That's the winter one. Oh, it's in
Germany.
Germany. Okay. So, and I guess that's sometime this year in the fall, maybe? I don't
In
know.
the fall, I think it's September.
September should
I
be.
think somewhere over there.
Should be. I don't know.
Okay. So before the eclipses, then I think.
Before the eclipses for sure.
That's good. Because Lord knows. All right. Anything else about Miss Kate's solar return?
What are
Right,
her
let's look-
progressions looking like?
All right. Let's do her progression. So,
Oh boy, gotta get those. Yeah.
1 second here.
Glasses.
Let me get my little pointer. Okay, so Kate's progressions are in this middle wheel. Am I right?
Yes.
Also another
Or the
moon-
6th house stuff.
Jesus, moon Capricorn South
Oh,
Node. So
wow.
again,
The
similar
universe
to
said,
William,
you better work, bitch.
you better work, bitch, but you're gonna be sad while you do
But you're
it.
gonna be depressed. And it's gonna be stressful.
Right? Because not only is on the
Wait a
South Node.
second. When did Saturn station retrograde in her progress chart? Is that recent,
Let's see.
or has that always been the case?
Where are you, Kate? And let's do this. Let's go back. Her progressed Saturn being, where is it?
It's at
21 Libra.
2153. Yeah.
Let's see.
When did that go retrograde? Okay, it went retrograde a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
2000. Oh, around the time when she was supposedly meeting William. Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
So this would have been what, college for her?
Yeah.
Just around graduation, possibly?
They graduated in what, 2005, 2006?
2005. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So this would have been maybe around the time they met, roughly?
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly, somewhere in there. I'm not sure exactly.
Wasn't the fashion show in 2003?
I think,
Much
or 2002,
wanted.
one of them.
I mean, here's the thing. This is why I'm looking for that missing information. So I'm just like, something is missing from this story that I'm not clear about. I know that they've broken up and gotten together several times, but I think it's important information for us to know because, these transits are coming back around for them involving Saturn, especially for her, the spouse. And I'm just
Yes.
curious what was happening 18 years ago that is coming back around now that clearly is not necessarily the best for Kate.
Yeah. Wait, okay, go back to now's progression. because where the fuck is, I mean, Mars has probably moved on by now, but oh wait, no, Progress Mars hasn't. Interesting. In a few years, Progress Mars is going to meet Saturn. Interesting.
Progress Mars ruling over what, her 9th house and
the
her 4th
4th.
house.
Oh, that's stressful.
It is very stressful.
So what are we thinking here? So media, press.
A legal case where you your home is in dispute
Oh no. Wait.
because your relationship that let you have a castle didn't work out.
And Mars is not in good condition.
No.
Saturn is super powered and harsh, which sounds like William.
It's also retrograde though.
We'll have to check the tertiary too, I think, for more
Yeah.
information. Do you want to do that real
That's
quick?
interesting.
Let's do it real quick, real quick. A nosy person. Sorry, guys.
She's all like, I gotta see this.
I gotta see what's going on here. Let's do
chart.
a quad wheel.
Not
Actually,
a quad wheel.
a quad wheel.
I
Do you
have to
want to
get
do
my
it?
other glasses out.
Hold on. So Kate, and we're gonna do her trans. Let's do tertiary. Okay. And then let's do a quad wheel real quick. So Kate's got regression. Oops, nope, not that. And then the transits. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Hold up real quick.
What are tertiary progressions even?
So I believe tertiaries are what, every month is a year? No, every day is a month. And then every 13 months is a year.
Oh.
Yeah, so they move a lot quicker. So even though Saturn is retrograde in the progress chart, the
It's
tertiary
not
will move
in
a
the
lot
tertiary.
faster. So it helps us to figure out a little bit quicker here. Now, animating this shit is a pain in the ass. So give me a second, guys. 1 second. Catherine, come here. Let's animate, and I'm gonna have to fix these charts real quick. Charts, God.
This quadrant wheel is insane.
I know, but it's kind of fun. Where are you? I know. And event. Tertiary. Okay, I think that's it. I hope that's
Okay.
it. So
That looks
natal, progressed.
Middle out. The third wheel is what? Tertiary.
Tertiary, and outermost is event. Okay, good. So we're together here. All right. So where are we? So outer wheel is what's happening in the sky right now. This wheel is tertiary. Second wheel is secondary. The center wheel is natal. Okay. So we are looking at what? Saturn and Mars. So tertiary wheels, Mars is in Cancer now.
Ooh.
Mars is in Cancer on the tertiary wheel.
And a depressed Scorpio moon in the 4th.
Ooh.
Yes. Coming to Jupiter.
Ugh.
And where's Kate? Kate is the sun in Cancer in tertiary.
In the 12th.
And Saturn, look at that. Saturn is now coming to Pluto via conjunction. So maybe this is why William is so comfortable with his power lately, because in her chart, he's souped up with Pluto. What else is happening?
I have power over life and death. I can do whatever
Especially
I want.
your life and death, because now this Pluto is square to her. This Saturn and Pluto is square to her, the sun. So it's a
Control, manipulation.
You said every day is a month, right?
Every day is a month. Yes.
It looks like in 6 months, her tertiary sun will progress into Leo, which does seem constructive for
That seems better for her.
Like an elevation in status.
Let me see something. It was every month a year, girl. It's so confusing. But
December.
so by the end of this year,
Mhm.
Let's see when exactly Kate will gain some
Maybe a little
power.
better.
Whew, that's improvement. That's a good thing
Mhm.
for her. She'll move into being a Leo Sun tertiary, which I like for her. And where is the moon? Yeah, well,
Oh wow,
Kate,
she's gonna have a tertiary full moon. It looks
Mhm.
like.
Jesus. I
She's like,
just,
she's a Capricorn, isn't she? To her toes. Like run
yeah.
her
Yes.
chart any way you want to run her chart.
Cap-
Through any
Capricorn.
progression, you can do whatever you want to it, and she's going to be a Capricorn in some way.
I'll have
Um,
to double check with the tertiary, but it's either every day is a month or every month is a year. I just learned it.
I think
but,
it sounds more like every day is a month. That sounds correct. That does
Yeah.
sound correct.
So well, I like that the sun is moving into Leo for her, which I think will be a very positive change, especially for
Yes.
her being this natal cap sun on the south node. Hopefully this will empower her a little bit more to at least withstand whatever
Yeah.
William is giving to her
Mhm.
a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then Jupiter will be in Sag, or at least it has been in Sag. Hold up. How
It
long
looks like
is-
it
it's been
has
there for a
been
while. So at least the
for a while, and it
for a
was
while.
retrograde. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's good. That gives me a little bit of hope for my girl, because I was just like, okay, listen, blink if you need help, girl. Do not stay someplace where it's
Oh.
dangerous for you, because
You
this
know,
seems
it's
dangerous.
interesting though. So I think via progression that Venus will go retrograde.
Which one? Her tertiary or
Virgo?
her?
Tertiary Venus in Virgo. Because it's
Okay.
so far from the sun. It's so
Yes.
far.
Yep. There
Yeah.
we go.
Is that
And Mercury
February
too?
2025? Girl.
Hold up.
Ugh. Confirming
Okay.
what I already believe. Thank you, tertiary progressions. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
So September of next year.
Mhm.
And what will be happening with the nodes?
Well, they're about to switch for one.
And where will be the moon? So we'll be coming into another eclipse around that time.
Yeah.
Getting
And
ready.
I think Mars entered shadow, like transiting Mars. No, actually, I lied. Not yet. Not yet. Because there's like that Mars retrograde that's going to happen from Leo to Cancer at the end of 2024. It starts at the end of 2024.
Here we go. So 6 Leo.
Yep.
Pretty close to all this 9 Leo that we're seeing currently.
Right on Charles's ascendant.
Oh boy. Ooh wee, baby.
Stress. Stress.
But she'll again still be a Leo sun. What's up with the moon now? Tertiary will be in Cancer.
Oh,
Okay.
coming to a new moon phase, like
Yeah.
not too long after that. So
how long? When did her Mars? Was her Mars already retrograde?
no, I think it went retrograde. Oh yeah, that's right, because she and William are born on opposite sides of a Mars RX. I forgot about that.
So she's coming into a Mars retrograde next year, top of next year.
Fun.
Jesus. Kate, what's happening, girl?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of shifts happening in her life.
There's a
right
lot
now.
happening, and it's all, and the nodes are going to be right on that.
Right on it with eclipses and everything.
Yeah.
And that Aries eclipse in her 9th in April is directly opposite that Mars by progression. So
and looks like the transiting sun will be with Pluto and square to this stuff too. So this is definitely some changing of the life.
lots of shifts in like family dynamics and relational life. That's for certain.
So this will be at the start of her 7th house year, because this will be in January of next year.
Mhm.
So, all right. So we're jumping ahead of it, but Kate is going towards some really heavy duty changes pretty in the next year, half year, 6 months, 6 months to 7 months roughly. We're going to probably be seeing a lot of shifts changing, a lot of
Yeah,
stuff.
it's honestly feeling like basically all of these transits in Kate's chart feels like stuff that's going on with William, and she's along for the ride.
The ride, yeah.
Yeah.
And she'll be having a tertiary full moon at this time too.
Loud.
Right.
It's loud.
Ooh, okay, girl. Well, we'll be here.
I
Call
wonder-
Kate.
I wonder too if that's like when they're going to invest them. I wonder if they're still going to do an investiture for their prince and princess titles. Are they going to drag them over to Wales and have them do the thing?
I
Maybe.
don't know. You know, we'll definitely, you know what I would do? We definitely check that against the Princess of Wales chart with all that Aquarius that we know is in that chart already.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would not recommend, but you know,
They
who
might do
listens
it
to
though,
us?
because like William has become more interested in like being present in Wales now
Mm.
that he has the title.
He learned a
So-
word.
Oh, give the man a hand. All right. Anything else
You
about
wanna-
Kate's?
I kind of want to peek at the wedding chart.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yes, we can.
Mostly just the transits to it. I'm curious. Like,
Mm.
All right. So remember, William and Kate got married on April 29th, 2011. We have a 8-degree Taurus sun. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 planets in
Woo.
Aries, Moon in
Woo.
Pisces, Saturn in Libra, square to Pluto, Venus square to Pluto, and Saturn opposite.
mhm.
It's giving control, girl.
Stop picking these abysmal wedding charts.
They love
But
it.
describes the marriage, right?
And they
Okay.
love the sun in Taurus wedding.
Hold on a second. Let's go to the wedding chart. Where are you? Here we go. Okay. So looking at the progressions currently, right? So the sun is now at 20 Taurus. The moon is at 29 Leo. Interesting.
Oh, they're about to have a moon change soon.
Yeah. So within the next month, it looks like.
To a picky Virgo
Oh
moon.
boy. Oh boy.
Mm.
How much fun.
Mm.
Yeah. Hold on. And this will be.
I'm sorry, but
progressions.
it never ceases to amaze me how this looks like a early 2000s
I know.
program.
Okay, so the moon is going to be changing pretty fucking soon, actually. A couple of
Yeah.
days.
Mhm.
Here we go. Is it the 29th, roughly?
Not them looking over her receipts.
Opposite to Neptune in the chart.
It's for the glamour, honey. That's why I bought this stuff.
So, okay, so this is a Leo rising. So again, second house. Oh, yep, you're right. You're right. So where are you spending all this money? How much is this new dress?
Look, I'm the princess. I need it for these things. That's
Girl,
good.
I would love to see. This is what they need to do in YouTube. They need to go to her fucking closet. Show me how many dresses you have acquired over the course of this marriage, right? Because this for me, I'm like, especially with this Virgo moon, I'd be like, how about you do a whole thing about, you know, reusing certain pieces and like edit, you know, getting them resold, like something. How to be frugal.
Mhm.
No, we won't do that. But if I was behind the scenes, like, let's be frugal. Let's reinvent your closet without having to spend any money. Truly. Okay. Anything else about these progressions we should talk about?
Mm.
Mars just moved into Taurus. When was this? Oh, recently.
Oh, wow. 2 changes recently, huh?
Yeah. Mars is in control of what? The 9th house and the 4th house, right? And Mars loses some dignity in the sign of Taurus, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So maybe that can be talking about the home life, the press, the legal stuff, all the things that are happening with them.
Maybe
I think
also
it-
like the beliefs and values too.
Mhm. Like
You know,
loss
yeah.
of morals.
0 degrees is a little bit unstable, so it can definitely be a little bit contentious in that regard.
Mhm.
So the eclipses are going to be going off across all of this 9th house stuff. So maybe this is again, you know, like you said, Mo, with them stepping into their roles more fully, more
Mhm.
spotlight on them too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that this sun in Taurus is going to be eclipsed at the end of the year in October, because it's only 3 degrees away from this 5-degree Taurus Scorpio partial lunar eclipse.
Yeah.
So, and I guess also the ascendant and descendant will also get pulled into that.
So a blow maybe to the public reputation of this wedding marriage.
Yeah. I mean, so for me, like if I was gonna do this, I would actually look at their Davison, and then I know they have a Gemini rising and like all this Taurus stuff in the 12th. And then I know that they do have an Aries sun in the 11th. Um,
Oh, I can't do that now. Next time.
no,
Next time.
but
Yeah.
it's funny because the same points in like Aries are also getting hit in their Davison.
Wait, do you do a Davison with the wedding chart?
No, just between
Oh, okay. You just mean
between the two of them.
two.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you were talking about a new chart. I was going to be like, wait, hold up.
literally their chart literally has what I think it's Sun in Aries, and then it's opposite all that shit in Libra that's retrograde. And interesting. I'm gonna get eclipse.
Let's do a quick tri wheel real quick. These charts are killing me, girl. Hold
Sorry,
up.
we really put you through your paces on these.
No, it's just hard when I'm trying to do it on screen. It's just like, damn it, what am I looking at? Okay, so progress for the wedding, and then let's do the event.
Yeah.
Okay, so middle wheel is the wedding, progressed, and then outside wheel is what's happening right now. So the node's moving off into, animate this real quick. Nodes are moving off into Aries and Libra. So all of this Aries stellium is going to get it. And also the South node going to the third house where the IC is for them as well.
Yeah. Even though the nodes are moving off the 10th house, just because it's hitting everything that they have going on in the Aries house, you don't get a break.
No.
And then Venus is
It's still
first,
on.
looks like Venus is, the progressed Venus at least is the first up to get hit by the node. And she's in control of that sun, that 10th house, and also that third house where the IC is. So some family related stuff too, Saturn too. So
you're not getting a break.
No.
Yeah, there's
And
a
then
lot
Pluto.
of pressure to maintain this facade or the look of it.
Pluto also squaring Venus loosely and the nodes. So I think we're definitely going to see some interesting news about them in the public eye and their image that might not be too great, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit, Aries, some fighting? Will they be caught fighting in public? Will someone lose their temper in public? Will the press start to hint at troubles at home? I mean, they're already talking about, Adelaide College is so cramped. I'm like, what? Like,
it's not a good headline during this cost of living crisis in Britain. Sorry.
No.
We might be hearing more about more things being thrown at each other, which I do not like.
Or even just questions about has William helped Kate's family with their financial stuff? Because that Jupiter Mars going on is kind of tying together family and shared resources and hidden assets, so
Mercury too. I mean, this is a pretty tight stellium here in progressed wise. What's significant at 24? Is anything for them 24 degrees that we know? Sort of? Not really.
Not really.
Not
No.
really.
So
But again, we're talking about all this Aries stuff falls into William's fifth, right? Aries falls into her ninth. It's still pulling in a lot of that same stuff that we were talking about: children, other people's children, the press.
I mean,
just
you're gonna laugh because that's their Davison 11th, the press, the public.
It's all a reiteration. His chart, her chart, the wedding chart. Same themes over and over and over again. So when we see this in astrology, it's like, yep, those are the things that are coming up.
I don't know.
Because we've gone across three different charts, several charts against three different people in a wedding, and it's the same stuff over and over again.
Yeah.
So in terms of William and Kate's sixth house year, it's looking pretty heavy for both of them.
Mostly for her, but
mostly for her. I mean,
he's not doing great either.
Yeah, I know.
he feels superpowered. Whether or not that is justified, I guess we'll see. Because to me, his behavior in public is so unusual. You know, like you are in the public eye and you're not seeming to care one way or the other how you're perceived, or you feel so confident that you won't be touched, which might go back to the press and all the behind the scenes stuff that we don't know about yet. Now, will that hold?
We'll see.
We'll see.
Mhm.
Anything else about this chart, ladies?
Nope. I mean, it just seems like, they're really transitioning. And I do think there's a really big shift in their responsibilities coming in 2024, 2025. And we'll just have to wait and see.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, also Uranus coming to the progress sun of the wedding chart. It's past it, but does Uranus go back over it?
Yeah, it does.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It goes retrograde.
he's going to go back to 19 Taurus by January of next year.
Yeah.
So we're going to get another pass. Chiron all over their stuff in Aries. The moon now in Virgo, opposite to transiting Saturn.
Mhm.
It's just, there's a lot going on in this chart that talks about, like Mo said, transitions, changes, and some of it is pretty hard emotionally.
Mhm. And a lot of expectation.
Yes.
So it's a lot of pressure.
Mhm.
Can they withstand it? We'll have to wait and see, but I wouldn't want to be in this.
Nope. Not. I wouldn't want to be in a submarine at the bottom of the ocean with this much pressure.
Because this has implosion energy all of it, right?
It sure does.
So we'll see. But, if I was their astrologer, I'd be like, I need you guys to get into fucking therapy.
Mhm.
I need you to work out your issues. I need you to
Mhm.
try to be cohesive, because you're better as a pair versus fighting amongst yourselves. And when the world comes attacking you, you're not going to stand a chance.
Yeah, like the chart isn't helping you communicate, so you're gonna have to do it.
Yeah, and you're going to have to figure it out, because
Mhm.
if you don't, this is going to be even more difficult than it already is.
Mhm.
And culturally, it doesn't seem as though the royal family is very supportive of one another during tough times, if history has anything to say about it.
No.
So I'm sure, as Diana and Meghan and Margaret and the rest would tell you.
Mhm.
Yeah. That was kind of heavy.
Yeah.
I'm a
Yeah,
little bit.
definitely. Like, it's funny how much of a better year like Charles and Camilla even are having.
Yeah, they're having like literally the time of their lives right now.
I mean, especially Camilla. Charles is like, yeah,
Mhm.
but these two, I would not wish this. But, listen, in astrology, we all have tough years, right?
Oh,
It
yeah.
doesn't have to be the end. It's hard to look at it all together and not feel like, oof. But, hopefully they're resilient and will do their best. That's all they can do. And if they
Yeah.
don't, it will be an example of all of us, regardless, whether they do well or they not do too well. Like, they're human. So I think it's important for us not to put them on pedestals and not to be especially cruel, because if I was in this position, I'd be pretty
Mhm.
pretty shaken up.
Yeah.
Oh, and not to forget to, they're going through those midlife, crisis transits that we all
They
go
are.
through. They're approaching them, and then we'll be going through them, within the next couple of years. And those are not fun. So
No, not at all.
I wish them peace. Yeah, I wish them peace. I wish for justice, regardless. We all have to pay our dues. The culmination of all our actions over the years comes up.
well, and also
And,
to the person that's given a lot of is expected. That's why I don't want to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, you can, girl, I'm sure Adelaide College is wonderful. You could also give up your other homes to the homeless,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I think someone asked him, he was like, yeah, I don't know about all that, but
don't know about that.
I don't know about that. And I'm like, sir, you can't live in all those houses at one time. But here we are. Anything else, my darlings? Thank
No,
you
they'll
so
be
much.
fine. They'll be fine. It'll be great. Like,
It will be great. We will watch and take notes and see what happens by the end of their 6th house years and reconvene and discuss. Next up is Harry and Meghan. Meghan has her birthday in August and Harry has his in September.
September.
That's right.
So I guess maybe we'll come back July or early August to discuss them.
Discuss, yeah.
And I think maybe between now and then we will do the Princess of Wales
We have to do it.
chart,
Also
because
dig up the whole like slides that's in the archives, girls.
I can't believe we spoke about it and didn't record it. I remember that. But now it seems like it needs to come back around, and maybe we need to pull up Diana's chart too.
Okay.
Just to see what's up.
I'm pretty sure
girl.
Diana's chart is in there.
Should be in
'cause
there, yeah.
It's such a big part about that title. So
Yeah, I just think between that title and the coming cardinal eclipses pulling her back in, and her son and daughter-in-law going through their stuff and mimicking her marriage from back in the day, if not worse, to be quite honest. I think she's involved somehow, some way, even from the afterlife. Diana's still here. But this was fun. Please let us know in the comments what your thoughts are, what you want us to talk about, what you think is going to happen. And yeah, this is fun as always. Thank you so much for watching, and we will be back soon. And till next time, au revoir and goodbye.